Good morning, everyone. It is actually, I should say good afternoon. It is almost 11:50, September 29th, 2025. It is Monday. And yeah, these charts are making some pretty good moves. So let's talk about a few things in here that are that have been going on this weekend, right? So let's look at this first. Let's take a look at Bitcoin, and let's take a look at the weekend. This was the weekend right here. So this is 29th, 28th, 27th, right? So this was Friday, right around here, right? If you notice, the volume like completely shut off, right? And then, we've kind of just chopped around a little bit. But come Sunday night, we started to see the volume turn on. And yeah, we're getting that relief that I was hoping for last week. On Friday, I mentioned that we took a pretty hardcore, drop from towards the end of the week. And what I was looking for was a relief bounce. But here's some cool things that are happening. First of all, if you notice, we are back in the range. This is good. This is a good sign, okay? Now, let's take a look at this. First, I'm going to make some adjustments on my chart now, okay? Because we've got a little bit more information, we're able to adjust some of these things that we were looking at before. Because this is a range here that is brand new to us, meaning like this is still forming some kind of data, and there is no historical data this way because this is the high of Bitcoin at this point, right? What we are looking at is all of this information is being created, and we can start looking back into this and try to figure out exactly how these charts are moving. Now I have a long setup here. This is the order block right here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this right here, like so. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to add on to this block a little bit, and I'm going to encompass this right here and this right here. Now, the reason why I'm doing that is because we've got a bunch more touches here. We've got 1, 2, oh, sorry. I'm on the wrong side here. We've got 1, 2, right? I'm going to consider this 3, 4, okay? 4 areas that look like they're touching, and it looks like it extends a little bit more. So I'm going to just color this a little bit different. Let's color this. This is my extension now because we have created some kind of support in this line right here. I'm not going to include this yet. And if you notice, I have this manipulation word over here. I'm just going to move it down because this is still considered manipulation to me, right? And you're going to see where I kind of go from here. So let's do this. Just like so. Yeah, that works. Okay, so now on the top here, I'm also going to do the same thing. Okay, I'm going to do the same thing. I'm going to grab this and I'm going to bring it up a little bit higher, right? And let's encompass this just because we need to. Now I haven't done this yet. I haven't actually moved the chart around, but let's color that orange there. Okay, so that's my extension. The reason why that I'm extending this is because we've got this really big wick over here. So this is kind of like full play over here, and this is full play over here. Okay. All right. So now, if we take a look at the chart now that we've made these adjustments, let me just kind of like clean this up a little bit. There we go. Right. If we look at it now, just the way that it is, we are still, this is the top of the range, right? We came down to the bottom of the range. We went to the top of the range, came down to the bottom. We got stuck in the middle, right? We had a fake out right over here. And now we've come back into the range here, right? And if this is truly, truly the bottom of the range now, this really is the line in the sand for us changing character. All right. So I believe that we are going to retest these highs. But in order to do that, we have to grab onto this right here. Because remember before, this was the change of character, right? We had to break this line, and we broke it. We came above, and we dropped below it. It became resistance, right? And then it came down here, and it's support. So now what it has to do is it has to find some kind of support here, right? Or better yet, it just needs to come over this line right here. Okay, this change of character is for this section right over here. All right, ultimately, when we get into the 50% range, so if we are above the 50% range, if we can grab a hold of here and bounce, then we're looking at the top. So this was a long that I had for quite some time now. And what I did was when we got down to this section, I actually added on to my long again. And I have now taken profit here. Actually, I've taken profit twice. I've taken profit here and I've taken profit here. Okay, so far so good. This played out from last week. So this is where I am right now. And what I'd be looking for is if it does come back over here to kind of retest this zone or like skim it, like you notice how it skimmed it over here and skimmed it over here. If it comes back over here, I may add on to my long right over here. Okay, because we got back into the range, that's a positive thing. And because of that, I still feel like this is in play. Okay, especially this 50% line. I was looking for it to come up over here and test the top again because that's normally what it does when it goes down to the bottom. But because we got this fake out here, I now believe that this was still the manipulation part for Bitcoin, and this was just a test of the bottom of the range. So, yeah. Now, what you can see on Ethereum, on the other hand, Ethereum has a pretty clear scope of manipulation. Okay. Now, last we left off on Friday, we were in this zone right over here. Okay. And I had this on my chart. If you noticed, if you watch Fridays, I was in a long. And yeah, I was in a long and I was underwater right over here. But I felt as though the reason why this was a good area to stay in that long was because if we moved right or to the left, we were at the top of the previous range, right? We were testing the top of the previous range right over here. So I felt it was worth taking a chance where this red line really was the like my stop out zone, right? Because if we get below this line, then we are going much lower down here somewhere. Okay, but if you take a look at this full picture now of where we are, we've got this move here, right? Down to the other side, back up, doesn't quite touch it. We come all the way back down, and this, to me, is manipulation. Okay, so we've got consolidation right here, and now we've got a clear form of manipulation. The way that I'm looking at it is if I were to take this right here, scooch it back over here, and I'll leave this one, I'll dim this out a little bit, right? And I will dim this one out as well, just like so. And now let me just make this thin dotted line. There we go. Okay, good. Now, as you see, like we are now back into the range. We're right here. So what I'm looking at now is this spot right here. Because of this candle and because of this candle right here, if we drop below this, then I believe we're coming back down over here somewhere. Okay? But what I'm hoping for at this point is I'm hoping for us to come over here, grab some support, and work our way back up so that we can finally get to this section over here. But we do have to break a couple of sections to get in there. For example, this spot right here, we do need to grab onto this 50% range, and then we can kind of move up. Now, if you look historically at this chart, look what happens when it gets over to the zone. It bounced over here, right? And then there was a straight candle up, right? And then we bounced over here again, right? And we slowly worked our way back up over here. But you see this as well? This could possibly be a faster move. Especially the fact that this was a pretty disgusting, puke move that it was doing, right? This was a pretty hardcore move. So if you notice, we've got some really nice momentum coming up right now. So what we're looking at for a change of character is this spot right here. If we can break above here, then there's a change of character between this downtrend. Okay? Because what we would be doing is we've got a lower high, lower high, lower high. We'll call this a lower high, right? And then this would become the higher high. This would be like number 1, right? And that would break its character right there. So we've got a, you know, a lower low, lower low, lower low, but now we've actually got, because this area broke its character, that's why there's a yellow line right there. This is actually our first lower high. So at this point, we are now at a point where we are looking for it to break this over here, this kind of range. And if it can grab some support over here and start working its way back up, then we're looking at the 50% range again. Okay, so that's what I'm looking for. I'm looking for, now that we're back in the range, I'm looking for it to stay in the range, especially on the lower part of the range. So this lower part of the range is in play. And again, you know, like what happens is whatever's going on in Bitcoin, if the dominance is kicking in for Bitcoin dominance, then Ethereum is going to be more exaggerated on the fall, of course. So the fact that it was manipulation down, like now it actually caught up because we've got a manipulation down below the range where Bitcoin already had it. We actually have two. This is manipulation right here, right? And this is manipulation. So we've got consolidation, manipulation, and now we're at the point of continuation. The third part of the power of 3, right? Continuation. All right, that's the third part that we're looking at now. Okay, so if I were to look at both again, let's just take a quick look over at it. If you take a look at Bitcoin, we'll get into this in a second. You can see kind of like where we're at. We've got manipulation right over here. We got manipulation over there. So now both charts look the same to me. They are in sync as far as like, we gotcha, you know? So now that they're both inside of the range, then I think they're going to drive each other up. So that's what I'm looking for, right? So hopefully you can see that. All right. As far as like dominance goes and stuff like that, let's go take a look over at Ethereum dominance real quick. You can see kind of like we've manipulated our way out and we're working our way back up, which is something that I mentioned before. I'm hoping that we break this yellow and Ethereum takes a run, because Ethereum has a lot higher to go to kind of catch up with what Bitcoin's all-time high is, right? I do believe that Ethereum has some really good potential of getting up there. Now, one of the things I wanted to show you was this chart over here, okay? So this is how I look at the moves that are being done. Everything to me is a range, okay? So if you take a look, this was the weekend range. Let me just update this here. There we go. So this was the weekend range. Let me bring this down a little bit more, maybe like this, and not include the wicks, right? So you could see kind of like where we settled out is more towards the middle. So when you make a range like this, you've got a change of character here, right? That you can reference as like, okay, if we break the high or we break the low, then we're going to continue. Because remember, look, this is the way it works. This is the pattern of change, right? It either goes like this or it goes like this, right? And you could see it each time. This goes down. And now we've got this over here, right? So now we are breaking up. So there are two zones here, really. Here are the two ranges. This is number 2, and this is number 1. This was the previous range, right? This was the weekend range after we dropped down. And now what we did was we broke out of this range here. We got into this range, and now I'm looking for a retest of the top area because we kind of broke both. But it definitely can come down right over here, okay? to test the bottom of that range. We basically shifted from this range into that range, right? So that's how I see it. And it becomes pretty easy to trade at that point. Like you've got your marks of where you long, you short, you long, you long, you short. But also you should know that these wicks give you an area of like, okay, if we go below this, we're going to rip a lot lower. If we go below this right here, we're going to rip a lot lower, right? And if we get above here, then yeah, we're gonna break out. And if we get above here, we're gonna break out, right? So that hopefully you could see that now with all the videos that I've been making. Anyway, so I am in a long. I took 2 forms of profit on both Ethereum and Bitcoin at this point. And the last thing that I would like to leave with you is this: these are not quick trades that I'm in. Like, these are not like big scalps. I feel like it's a long enough time for you guys to watch the video, see what my positions are, and determine if it's something that you want to take a chance on, right? So I'm not giving you exact entry and exit points. Instead, if you look over here, you could see a range. On top of that, you should be able to mark up your chart very similar to what I've got going on here for you to see exactly what what I'm doing. So I would encourage you to do so. I got in very, very heavy at this point. I got in heavy and I took a good amount of profit here and I took a good amount of profit right here. So far, so good. I did get stopped out by a couple of trades. I got stopped out over here and I got stopped out over here, which is fine. But these two right here actually make up my loss that I've made. So at this point, I'm kind of break even. But if we get even higher than this, then I am making some really, really good profit, right? And I'm only looking for momentary profit. I'm not looking, even though I'm looking for it to get up here, like ultimately that's what I'd like to see. I am only really playing these ranges. This is my range that I'm playing. This was my range I was playing. So as it got into these zones, I took my profit, right? And I'll continue to take profit as we go along, right? Until we get up to the top here. But if we do get back down lower, then I will add on to my trades. So anyway, that's where we are right now. I am looking for it to continue to move up. I'm looking for it to hit, try to make its way to the middle of the range. Not immediately, but definitely like find some kind of support of some sort. So if you're not in a long, this is kind of the area that you want to look at, I would think, for a long. If we get any lower than that, then, time to reassess, right? And as far as Bitcoin goes, it's pretty clear as to where the zone is that you want to stay above. So it would be, this is the area to play for a long. Actually this whole area here is to play for a long. If it gets below this area, then, I would consider getting out. So anyway, hope that was helpful. Talk to you guys soon. All right, bye.